Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
It's Ed Cohen in San Diego, California, and this again is Global TV Talk Show. It's a service of business, globalbusinessnews.net. Check it out. We have a lot of new stuff on that page, globalbusinessnews.net. We are global today. We have with us Jeff Houck, an expert in talent mobility management, leadership in a complex energy company called Suncor, now in transition. Welcome, Jeff, from Calgary. We have Csaba Toth, who's in Brighton, England, along the English Channel there. And he's a very well-known consultant and author. And the latest book is Unusual Thinking, Unusual People, Unusual Times, something like that.
In unusual times.
Yeah, well, great. Okay. And we want to do a little deep dive on that, particularly in the view of Maarten Poels, coming to us from Holland, longtime exec involved with mobility, Santa Fe, and now in a new venture called 90 Days. So 90 days means you got to hit the ground running, have a plan, and get out, right? Profitably.
Exactly, yeah. And it's even called next 90 days. It's not the current 90 days, but what are you going to do to get out in the next 90 days? And of course, everybody has read the theoretical books about 30, 60, 90 days. But it's really true. When we look back at our jobs and what we have been doing, I started to describe what I was actually doing and touching within my job. And every time it was the same divisions I touched, the same drivers leading to cash improvements and profit improvements. And when I timed that, every time I was able to show an uplift or change in 90 days. So we're now making a profession of helping companies that have challenges, but turning those challenges into opportunities, because that's the game, I think. It's not only about thinking about challenges, that's boring and that's negative. You need to try to set those challenges into positives.
So I read on your site, on your LinkedIn page, Maarten, some interesting stuff about globalization and what's driving all this, not to mention the pandemic stuff. But I read that you have a dashboard and 90-day modules and certain KPIs. So first of all, what is a 90-day module?
So before we start with a project, we thoroughly discuss with CEO or owners. Most of the times it are owners, what the exact problem is that they're facing. And if an owner or a CEO is not able to describe the needs of the company really well, that's already the first problem. So we designed what we call a need assessment, and that's quite well known within the consultancy industry. We work with a NOS, needs, outcomes, solution, evidence, also quite well known. And it takes an hour really to deep dive with that owner or CEO to exactly describe the needs. And I will give you an example. My last conversation was with an owner who said, yeah, my problem is top line revenue. And I said, well, why? And I asked the why question a number of times. And it's never only top line revenue. It is many critical drivers behind why the company is failing in revenue. So the 6 modules that we've designed in the 90-day program really comes from operational experience. I described what I was doing the last 15 years as a transition into this new company, because I was looking back in what exactly have I been doing? I've been always in growth companies, burning platforms, restructuring for 15, 20 years of my life. And I never described it. So I described it right now, and I took it into 6 modules and a 90-day program that also other people could drive this. So that's explained the next 90 days program, Ed.
Good. Let's talk about globalization. So from your view, and then I want to get Csaba's view and get some practical thinking from Jeff. Globalization, Maarten, what happened?
It's a container, word for a lot of things. I guess many companies were challenged to be everywhere, to go everywhere, to have companies and entities in almost every country. Sometimes following the footprint of their clients. That sounds wise, but also sometimes not, just to expand and to be in 40 plus countries. Looking back at those organizations, a number of countries are not lucrative, and you're there because nobody knows, just a growth expansion drive. So globalization, I think you need to be very thorough in then having a global strategy. Why do you want to be so global? And globalization has its upsides and also has its downsides. Being a global company, it really means that you need to have the same service delivery in every country, with all those cultures, with all those local arrangements that you need to take. So joining those companies I worked for, I did not experience that really global attitude. Our clients were telling me, so you think you are a global company. Why are you then having different services in Belgium from Japan? So you're thinking global, you're not acting global. So, and globalization, the downside is the constant drive to grow and to acquire companies gave a lot of debt on the balance sheet. Yes, we were becoming bigger, but was it really the aim to just become bigger? I don't know. Looking back, many CEOs maybe have regrets.
Let's jump to Jeff Houck. Jeff, Suncor is global, highly integrated. So you had people all over the place, didn't you?
That's right. Under various brands. I think that there might be a distinction when we're talking size of companies, for sure, and the footprint, and I think as well as the product within that they're delivering. So there's so many different contributing factors into the globalization and the footprint and the way it works. But from my experience, and we are really talking about an organization, corporations, companies' will to actually deliver globally. Maarten said they're thinking, but they're not acting, and I would even take it back. Maybe they're just saying that they're global before they're thinking they're global, before that they're actually acting global. And those are things that are very important. One of the things we do in global mobility, and Maarten, and I know that we all know this or understand this, maybe we don't know it, is the deep cultural component attached to every piece we do and our footprint globally, and how we interact with that local population and how it translates back into the business that we're doing. And those things are most important to understand when you are doing that on a global basis, so that you are in fact acting as a responsible global company. And I think that is a piece also that is certainly missed. But again, going back, I think it's very dependent on the industry that you're in as far as what you're delivering. But foundationally, it is how you're culturally engaging within that and how it translates across your organization in that set of values.
Yeah, thanks. Csaba, so is this unusual thinking?
My question is that what do you mean by global thinking and acting global exactly? What's your definition? Because I think a lot of people have different versions in their head. What do you refer to?
Maarten.
Well, if you combine both sayings of Jeff and myself, global acting and global playing means you want to be on every continent, in every country, delivering your services or products. That's mainly it.
Profitably.
Well, that should be the case, but it's I haven't seen it, Jeff. It's also sometimes a shareholder push to be in 40 plus countries for other reasons than just being profitable, but just being there. So maybe that answers the question.
Yeah.
Right.
Csaba, what do you think of that?
Okay, so the definition is about being present in different countries, because our approach is slightly different. It's about understanding how people make decisions, what's important to them, so we can bridge the gap between our intention and the impact on others. Because often we rely on common sense and good intention, and we think that people are motivated by what drives us. And statistically, 3 out of people are significantly different. So a global company who has different services in different countries, to me, that's definitely more global than another company that has everything in the same way, because people are different and we can customize it. So if you look at, for example, McDonald's, they are huge, they are global, but local at the same time. You recognize the branding, definitely, but they have really specific leadership style, management style, customer service style, even the offering. So it gives you that feeling of familiarity. And this is what people are addicted to. Not just your clients and your employees, but they just want to feel valued and understood. And if they don't feel that, they go somewhere else where they will. So if you look at the research from Salesforce, then around 80% of CEOs believe that their customer service is excellent. But only 8% of customers agree with them. That's a huge mindset gap. Because often the leadership style, the management style, or the company culture is just the reflection of the CEOs or the founders' personal preferences. They believe that's the right thing to do, but it doesn't mean that it is. So that's why we focus on the deeper layer of culture, the cognitive diversity, how people make decisions, how they deal with conflicts, and how they interact with each other.
And now a word from our co-sponsors. Our programs wouldn't happen without the wonderful support of our advertisers. Here they are.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
Cube Monk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Track your goods with our advanced GPS system. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions. as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Insured Nomads provides protection and peace of mind with health insurance, travel insurance, group, or tailored insurance for the globally mobile. Visit us at insurednomads.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Hi, my name is Christine. I'm a nurse from the Philippines, and I got to know IAS through Worldwide Health Staff Solutions. And I want to thank IAS, especially to Matthew, for helping me get my car stress-free, headache-free. And so I just want to show you the car that I got. So it's a RAV4 XLE 2020.
As an expat moving to the USA, relocating is exciting, but it can also be stressful. Getting a car, truck, or SUV for personal transportation is usually a high priority. That's where International Auto Source comes in. We make getting the vehicle you want for your work assignment or academic program easy, so you're ready to drive when you arrive. Our product specialists have helped over 50,000 expatriates with their personal transportation needs, making us the largest international auto retailer in the world. International Auto Source gives you flexible payment options to buy, lease, or rent a vehicle from the world's leading auto brands, arrange financing on a purchase or lease without a U.S. credit history, social security number, or driving record, get full insurance coverage, and get approved easily through our low-rate factory-backed financing programs. And because we're an authorized distributor of the world's leading automotive brands, our no-haggle prices are competitive, and the buying experience is hassle-free. We'll even guarantee your new vehicle will be ready the day you arrive. With over 20 years of experience in the global community, we are the vehicle experts for expats. We are International Auto Source.
Maarten, thinking global, many units in different places, and thinking about, again, referring back to your LinkedIn page, where you talk about globalization and what happened. So I saw something there about KPIs. Okay. All right. So in each culture, each country, each unit, there's going to be different KPIs, right?
First, I totally agree with the first speaker. They call it a lot of times acting, thinking global, acting local. So if you cannot take the local environment into your global structure, you're bound to fail. But at the same time, it's awfully difficult to execute this because head office is probably always sending out the branding and the procedures and how to act and how to perform, and they tend to overlook the local ingredients, really the local ingredients that need to be there to be, as you call it, recognized. If people don't recognize you, you're out of the game. But having people who can think global and act local, there are only a few of them around. You really need to search for them. It's not easy. You either need to be trained or you need to be sent around the world to experience really what it is that you have worked on the head office and you have worked in all or in different countries where you can see that. And referring to your question, add KPIs, and what in our experience and our owners and shareholders, they were only interested bottom line in two things, and it was cash and margin. And I will not tell you that those are the only things, but everything we touch, even if we touch culture or human behavior, or it is finance or supply chain, in the end, it is all about the cash situation and your profit situation, and building a sustainable company. And the level of profit and cash, that's different in every company. Some companies,
Maarten, if I may, there's a naivety with leadership at the socio side does not contribute to the financial side. And I think those of us that have been in industry for a very long time realize the importance of those well-fitted, well-informed ambassadors that are going global and that are in these global locations. The time and money that is spent on these, and Ed, you and I have talked about this before, on these assignment leaders, it's huge. And so we're talking about profitability. We've got huge investments in these people that are actually operating these global entities. And the first thing that many organizations cut is their investment in engaging and being able to culturally immerse and understand all of these things of the local destination or that local environment. And then they wonder why we're not actualizing where we are across the line. So referencing some of the slides that you'd sent out before, is we really need to understand before we're going in and delivering what we think is the product or manufacturing or producing a product, we need to really understand what the intent is, what the culture is, and how that local population goes about contributing in a business manner.
I totally agree, and I'm now officially cut loose from Santa Fe, but every year we did that annual report, and every year the C-suite level acknowledged the fact how important mobility was for the good of the company, not only for the person but for the good of the company.
That's right.
And they need those experienced multinational leaders around the world. So that they truly acknowledge that. I think one of the reasons why a bit has changed is they found the spend that was done on these programs, and you start laughing, but I am interested in what you're going to tell me back. But controlling the spend has led to programs for expats that are completely different than 10 to 15 years ago. Nevertheless,
we talk about with the RMCs, and I used to have this conversation. Spend is very different than cost, and spend is the dollars. The cost is the realization if you haven't spent the dollars, and that's what you get at the back end. So if you have not invested properly, it doesn't matter what the cost of it is. All of it's wasted. If you spend it wisely and you attribute it in a meaningful manner, you're going to contribute to another one of the little cliche catchphrases that we use is the ROI. Which unless you're investing and you're doing it right, it doesn't matter what the spend is. It'll be at the peril of everything. So that's the translation here is that spend does not attribute to cost. They're interrelated and they need to be spoken to differently.
And that's a perfect bridge in what we were helping mobility leaders to get that bridge from spend to cost and to explain that to their C-level leaders, because in my experience, they were not really well able to capture the data to really be sure what they were telling and giving their superiors. And we constantly help them with that. And I completely agree with your statement. And I do believe in the other spectrum of the report, CEOs acknowledge the importance of having the programs. So they know what it should bring them. But as every leader, they want solid data to back that up.
So we're going to get into data and tech in a minute. Csaba, can you jump in and talk about culture, how it relates to cost and dollars?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic, because I agree that a lot of leaders are aware of the topic, that it is important. But for example, if you look at the annual report from Deloitte, when they interview hundreds of different CEOs, Then, for example, they were ranking the different topics in terms of how important and urgent they were. So, for example, global mobility, talent management, HR, how important, around 80 or 90%. And then the second line underneath, how prepared and how ready they are. Usually that's around 40 or 50%. So there's a massive gap between how important the topic is and how ready they are. And that's exactly our topic. But the second insight would be, I would just dig deeper. That yes, maybe a lot of people look at the cost of investment, but the next question is, what do they invest in? Because, for example, when I started my research more than 10 years ago, it revealed that around 90 or 95% of companies buy and sell people solutions created in the 60s and 70s. And when our great-grandparents answered the questions, there was no internet, there was no EU, there was no cheap flight. They had really different challenges than us. So that's the question, what do you invest in? Solutions designed for the challenges of the last century or for the current ones? There's a big difference there. And you're going to see the return on investment. So often the companies have the budget, they have the best intention, and they have plenty of providers who are willing and happy to sell what they have instead of what the clients need. So for example, this is what Maarten was talking about in the very beginning, in terms of the needs analysis. And if you ask people what they need, I think most people don't know that. The first thing they know is what they don't want, and they're really passionate about it. And then maybe they know what they want, but very few people know what they need. And I think this is the balance, because when we have clients, we have to give them what they want, but they have to get what they need. And it's a really, really fine balance. And sometimes it's really challenging. So the question is, what do you invest in exactly? And what are you expecting in return? If somebody just wants to tick the boxes, of course, they're not going to get the results. And lots of companies are like that. But if you really care about people, you know that it's not optional. So for example, Jacob Morgan published a book last year, I think, The Future Leader. And he asked one question, 140 top CEOs, including Unilever and MasterCard. What are the skills that we should be teaching leaders now to prepare for the future? He came up with 4 mindsets and 5 skills. One of those was technology. The other 8, so the 8 out of 9 mindset and skills were directly linked to how much you understand yourself and others. That's pretty important. So culture is not optional. The problem is when people think about culture as a synonym for country or nationality, and it's way beyond that. So if we talk about maybe individual and group mindset, then we can remove this illusion of separation and the illusion of superiority.
Yeah.
And it's not optional at all. It can make or break a team.
Maarten, let's go into some tech, okay? I'm sorry to interrupt your train of thought, but I want to get into tech with you.
And what's your question, Ed?
Yeah, the use of data, big data, technology. You know, last century it was a different kind of data and tech, but now you have a lot of information. And so how is AI and virtual going to be integrated in, within the 90 days sprint?
Sure. And just to get back to the topic that before this question, Ed, it would be very interesting if maybe you have done some investigations in what company is really investing in his people and what company is doing more cost control type of stuff in mobility progress, because I can see a clear difference between those companies. So in tech, when I joined 5 years ago, I told my CEO that his company looked like a bank to me, because the last time I went into a bank was, let's say, 10 years ago. I never go to bank. It's all online. So I was amazed about the way mobility, or let's say Santa Fe, was organized in paper, not connecting systems, not having the customer journey in full sight. So and many industries has done that battle already a long time ago. So the industry, or Santa Fe, was lagging a bit behind, and we did a massive sprint to get back and fully digitalize the processes, for two reasons. One was mainly for our client. Our clients, both on the corporate side as on who was actually moving, relocating, they want to be able to see what was going on, to see live on an app on their phone when something was ready, when something was shipped, when documents were ready, immigration, visa, etc. So before you can do that, you need to put the whole supply chain, sometimes 60, 70, 80 companies that you are managing, into a customer journey, into data points. And if you don't do that into data points, you're never able to get that into a digital environment. At the same time, we saw that, and I said that to Jeff, that HR or HR managers or directors were really not able to get the right data from their suppliers to discuss this important topic with their leaders. It was more stomach feeling that this is a huge important topic, that it is career building, it is culture building, we need to have those leaders around the world, besides sending out teams to acquire other companies. They need to have data to prove a little bit that those facts. And if you ask the CEO those questions, and how did I make decisions, I want to have data first, and then I did my stomach feeling, my Fingerspitzengefühl to decide whether I go left or right. But there was no data. So without data, you're making it very difficult.
This is Maarten. I cannot agree with you more on this, because this is something that we had a number of RMCs and then various suppliers for everything across the board, and the only way that you're going to meet KPIs is by having the data to back them up. So it's this chicken and egg that we go around and round. But going into two things, and I think we're having two different conversations here that are running parallel, and that is, we've got a corporate or a company corporate conversation that we're going, but we're also talking about that employee experience. So we've got these two things that are linear going along the way, and both of them need to marry in order for something to be successful. When we're looking at corporate abilities to report out on the ROI and how they're doing from a profitability level, that's one thing. And then we also need to make sure that the investment that we're making in the people on this footprint is going there. And this is where, in both cases, data needs to be captured so that we can take a look at and be able to transcribe, really, are we meeting our objectives on a corporate level where we're profitable or in the market in the right way? But the other way we're doing it is, are we getting something out of the investment that we're spending so much on the people that are in these countries? And it's doable, but it's a deep, it's complex, and what you have to do is identify what you're trying to track, of course. But once you've done that, you can look at the frequencies of what's going on and really understand. And in my mind, as leading mobility in an organization, what's so important about that is being able to see indicators along the way of frequency as you get out to what is and what is not important in the program offering from a people level. Because you can throw, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars at something. If you're throwing it in the wrong place, you're throwing it out the window. Once you identify what people want or think they need, then you can focus that on that and keep, I'm a program guy, not a policy guy, because with programs, you can always be fluid with them. Use that data that you're paying so deeply for and actually make something of it so you can attribute it to where it's supposed to go.
Makes complete sense, Jeff. And I was so staggered by the fact that 5 years ago when I joined the industry, that they were still sending out hard copy reviews a month after relocation. So a relocation takes 3, 4, 5, maybe sometimes even 6 months. And then a month after, they will get a paper review asking them, how was your move? I couldn't even remember my move. So investing in CX, again, we use Salesforce for that, talking about tech and systems. We use Salesforce to every step of the way check with the person who was relocating, rate us 1 to 5, please, 1 to 5. Every step of the way on touch points. by doing that, we were able to steer the process. If we were a little off, slightly off, we could fix it. And
Course correction. That's right.
Sometimes we fix it even without knowing that we needed to fix something. If you do a survey 6 months after relocation, you can only say, well, that's a bad review or it's a good review. Nothing will change in the experience of the person. So implementing CX for me was a normal thing to do, because many industries have done it already, of course, before. And in this industry, we were lagging behind. And now I think we're on par. Many companies right now in the industry, they have systems or apps really communicating real time with their not only corporates, but also the people who are actually relocating, Jeff.
So now it comes in, and this is the crux of everything always, is we are beginning to actually be able to formulate the data that's in place. And now it is up to people, and this is such an important niche, and so important is being able to translate that data. And that's where we are. So once you have it and you're able to look at the frequencies and get some of the translations out of it, it's then that you can actually apply in real time what you need to do to get the most out of the money. And that, to your point, the cost and the spend, when you understand where it's going, there's enough to go around. We just have to put it in the right place.
Sure.
Csaba, bring in the people aspect.
I think Jeff and Maarten just came up with a really interesting point, is that often people just rely on gut feeling because it sounds like a fluffy topic. When we talk about mindset and culture and people and behavior, it's so intangible. And at the same time, it's also a subjective topic. So one of the biggest challenges is to measure and visualize the data. And a lot of leaders speak the language of money. And that's why we spend a lot of money on making people happy, because happy people make more money. I mean, that's the basic concept. And, it doesn't matter how they package it, but sometimes they spend more money on employee engagement surveys than actually addressing the root cause of the problem. And if you look at a corporate environment, 60 to 80% of all problems in a company stem from strained relationships between employees. 60 to 80%, that's insanely a lot. And the top three reasons are clash of values, clash of personalities, and poor leadership. And all three of them stem from the same source, the lack of understanding of why people think and behave differently. So it makes sense to address that. So when people can hold a report in their hand, when they can measure the mindset gap between two people, a person and a group, you make this topic as objective and tangible as possible. You can measure it. You can ask people real time. You can see what works and what doesn't work. But assuming that people are statistically average in certain countries, that's a big, big mistake. Because looking at the research, at least 70% of the people in a country are significantly different to what is normal around them. So that's exactly our topic, measuring the mindset gap between what is natural to us and what is normal around us.
So Csaba,
because everything is relative.
Isn't it so, and hey guys, just jump in and add or criticize what I'm saying. But Csaba, isn't it so that it's always the let's just call it the employee and then the direct relationship to the superior, or that level, rather than C-suite down to me. I'm dealing with you as my direct manager, and the relationship between you and me is what is where the rubber meets the road here. Not with the company, but with this one person who I've got to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. And according to Gallup, 75% of employees leave managers, not the companies. And that's exactly correct. But there is more to it. It doesn't mean that they are bad people. Because if you look at the same research, then they say that the bottom 5%, so technically the most disengaged layer of a company is middle management.
Exactly.
And they're the ones who should implement the employee engagement and well-being programs. No, they are in survival mode already. They are pissed off. They are stressed. And they are not bad people. They just never had the kind of training. They don't have the people skills, because often the best employees are promoted to be a manager, which is a completely different job. It's like telling you that you're such a good person, from tomorrow you're promoted. You are a dentist. And I'll give you hassle because you're not a good one. That's not fair. So they need support the most. because they have to filter the information up and down. They have to manage relationships with the superiors and also the employees. They're almost like a filter in a company. And what happens when the filter is blocked? Well, the system breaks down. And we can see that everywhere. If the middle management or the manager is upset and they don't have the right skills, so the employees are not motivated and angry, the customers are going to feel it as well.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I would say two things, Ed. It's a no-brainer that culture beats strategy. Not having the right culture, you can push your strategy down the throats, will not work at all. So culture is really the most important thing. Then coming back to the question of employee and leader, it is really the -1, the -2 that are making the effect in the company. It's leader is just merely there to give direction and strategy, but the communication is crucial. How it then reaches the -1, -2, and all the way down. I was quite surprised that many leaders are taking their board presentations all the way down, and using language that people do not understand, do not have interest in. They want to be very close to their own division, organization, community. So I became very much interested in and I guess the author of the book knows this, in a sort of organizations called corporate rebels. And those guys, they truly believe in bringing the authority down to smaller teams. And I've been working in equity companies that don't believe in this, and they really are giving the procedures out of head office. You need to strictly follow the book. I tend to see a mix. You should do not one or the other. You should do both, because if you create smaller entities and smaller groups and smaller communities and talk the language that they understand and that they are interested in, it is much more effective. And that's probably also a bit of answer of the employee versus leader.
Maarten, yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
If I may, yeah. I'm middle management where I am, and this is the big piece here. When you're doing your yearly. I come from an organization that's well intended from a people side, and I think most think they are. But again, it comes into this translation. So when we're looking on an executive level of what our goals are, what we're trying to interpret, that's great, when you're in the stratosphere, because it could be overarching. But what people need, and every division needs, is please translate that to what it means to me. And if people can get down there so that they can glean 2 of 10 objectives out, because you're not going to reach all 10, you're going to try. And if you try for 10, nothing's going to be serviced. So you pick your most important 2 that you're pulling out, how they translate to your piece of the business, or how they translate to people in that piece of the business. People can understand that if it's a small, dissected, and very attributable task that they have to perform or change, because it's something they can focus on and do well at it. So you master it in small pieces, and once combined, of course, they lead to the betterment of everything. But I think to your point is that when it's not clear and people can't relate, as well intended as it can be, you're never going to get what you're looking for. You're going to be disappointed. If you make it into layman's terms, how it works, where it works, on the ground where you are, you're going to see the huge deliverable from that.
Yeah, and if you take a really bad example, even there, I was in certain countries where it's very polite to listen to the boss. You just need to, and we did there was a monthly town hall, and I saw people coming into the room because they needed to listen. And after an hour, they went away, and if you would ask them a few questions, they even didn't really understand what the whole hour was about.
What just happened? That's right. Very true.
That's a bloody waste of time and people. I think it's even disrespectful.
Yeah. Ooh. So, Maarten, one of your great lines in your site that hit me this morning when I was reviewing it. Says you want to deliver value more than the cost. You want to guarantee in your relationships, you want to guarantee the ROI up front by showing the value, and then we'll talk costs.
So I don't want to talk only about the value, because I really do believe in the cultural aspect of a company that's of huge importance. But guys, changing culture or behavior in 90 days is almost impossible. Maybe you can take or change one or two who are really not doing their thing or are aligned. You can show them the right route, but really changing culture is taking more time. But to answer your question, I've been dealing with lots of consultants in my past, hiring them in to help me out and to help the company out. And now I'm one myself, so I want to make a difference. And the worst thing I saw is that I got analysis from consultants. They left me a pile of paper that I even needed to read myself. They did a presentation, a fancy presentation. They didn't implement, they didn't deliver, they didn't focus on the result. So the moment I thought, becoming a consultant myself, I need to make a difference. So up front, I really want to discuss with the company or the CEO, the owner, what is the real problem? How can we help you out? And we're going to translate that into, yes, unfortunately, numbers. And if we feel we can hit or even do more than the owner or the CEO is expecting, we commit to deliver, because we then know that we're going to deliver in that 90 days. And it works with a penalty and a bonus. Even if we do not reach the number, we get a penalty. So I think that's a really fair way of hiring us in, but be sure up front that the results are more within the 90 days, but also leaving a structure for the future than your investment. And that is something I would do instantly if I have had those consultants around me.
So we got about 10 minutes left. Csaba, we're not talking politics here, but the American people fired the guy and hired this other guy. Total culture change coming, and from my point of view, yeah, better. But from the world's leaders' point of view, they're seeing what's going on with the development of put people in place and explanations about what these people stand for, things like that. This is exactly what you're talking about, isn't it, Csaba? That you're going to tell people what you're going to do, and then you're going to demonstrate something and talk about the 90-day sprint. That's exactly what the new president is going to be faced with, right, Csaba?
Yeah, it's definitely a good start, but I don't know how big that culture change is going to be, because the country is divided. I don't think a lot of things are going to happen. Yes, maybe you can force behavioral change, but it doesn't mean that anything changes inside. So if you look at culture, it's just a group habit driven by values and beliefs. It's a group behavior. And changing behavior without updating or upgrading the identity inside is not going to be sustainable. And at the moment, a lot of people are standing against something, but not many people stand for something. So it's more difficult to stand behind them. There is no clarity. And if you cannot connect your objective to their highest values, and they don't understand how your objective is going to support their vision, then it's not going to connect. Nothing is going to change. And I think that's the biggest challenge, that mindset gap. If somebody wants to be right or they want to grow. And I think this is one of our biggest problems, that if you look at the different culture groups, if that's a political party, that's a profession, that's a way of eating or sexual orientation or anything like that, that's a label. So technically culture is just a prepackaged mindset. They tell you exactly what is right, what is wrong, who you have to like, who you have to hate. You don't have to think, it's easy. So if people don't know themselves, there is no self-awareness, there is no self-inclusion, they don't know who they are, what they stand for, then it's almost like ordering it on Amazon. I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm a vegan, I know exactly what to do. So when somebody attacks that label, then they feel that they are being attacked, so they have to protect it at all costs, no matter what. It doesn't matter if they are right or wrong. They are so invested in it that they have to protect it. It's so primal, and that is dangerous. So the more you understand yourself, the more confident you can become, because the more stable you are. Because if your identity, your self-esteem depends on other people, how much they like you, how much they agree with you, how much they need you, it's a really, really fragile place, and it's really stressful. So that's how I would address that problem. Educating people, get to know yourself first, because if you depend on other people, it's dangerous, it is stressful. And once you lose that trust, like for example, on the country level, it's difficult to build it up again. You can say that, listen, it's me now, I'm the leader. Yeah, for 4 years. And what happens after that? How much can we trust you as a country? Maybe we like you and trust you as a person, but it's not up to you. You're just one of many people. So that's going to be an interesting challenge, and I'm curious about it.
Yeah, Maarten.
Well, I tend to stay off politics a bit because there are so many visions and ideas in the Americas right now on what is good and what is bad. Getting back to organizations, what I see in organizations is, if an organization is not doing well, most of the times you see also a population of employees that are in despair or lost. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do, what the strategy is, what is the horizon. They have no common feeling of what the organization stands for. And building up trust takes a long time. When you fuck up, it's easily gone out the door. So I think it starts with building common ground, common goals, common horizon, and then breaking that down into small steps. What is the first step we're going to take? And if you take that first step, let's celebrate. And then referring to our conversation also with Jeff, those small steps, you need to be able to translate that. What can I contribute to that first step? What is my role in that big play? Because people want to be involved. They want to be engaged. They want to be, being part of the plan. And
to be heard. And this is the thing, is that the solution is there, from a human experience all of the time. Someone just has to listen to what people are saying. And I think that we've seen this, all of us, is the arrogance of leadership, who always knows right, need to step back, and we need to listen to what our people in location, in the situation, are saying. They have an experience that they can offer to us, so that either, yes, we want to repeat this because it's wonderful and we can spread it across the organization, or we can look at it and say, this is a very bad situation, which we never want repeated. So let's do something about it. But the biggest thing that we've got, it can go organizationally or it can go politically, is we just need to stop and listen. And we get so much more, maybe by listening something and trying to understand something, than force feeding or designing it because we're also intelligent. We know the solution right out of the box, which is not the case.
But in dealing with a large company like you've been with Suncor, and dealing with all the stakeholders, what is next for you? What would you like to do differently?
I'd like to do a lot the same, actually. I'm very good at what I do. I'm a builder fixer kind of guy. And that's what this conversation about people and about the data, I find it very intriguing because there are all of these things that I think are so valuable, and it's all things that you can actually do something about. So it's not a site of despair, for sure. It's an opportunity. I would like to really, there's with cost and spend constraints, we're still able to achieve wonderful things from people's perspective, which in turn will be good for the organization and good for the shareholders. I think we need to change the mindset, and again, relying on data, because that information is there, is build really nimble and purposeful programs that are well fitted, so that people that we're sending out or in a location are getting what they need to succeed. because people that are having their needs met are going to perform better because they're going to be happier, and we're going to get the whole base up. So what I really want to do is have a seat in an organization that either realizes the value of an excellent and well-fitted mobility program, or are at least seeking to understand the value of a well-fitted and well-built mobility program from where I come from, where it leads to their overall growth in what they're offering, really from that attraction and retention and talent management proposition. The value proposition for the employee is not always about money. And when people see that there's belief, and it's invested from not just from a financial piece, but really culturally, or from a belief organizationally, that it's not out of necessity, but rather out of desire to make it something that's people-centric or employee-centric, you're going to get the best out of your people and you're going to succeed. So in short, I want to be in a company that is intelligent and realizes that people that are well taken care of in a smart way are going to contribute to the bottom line in the best way possible.
Thank you, Jeff. Csaba, what do you got coming up?
Well, the next course is going to be in February. That's going to be the Uncommon Mindset one. And in the meantime, we are partnering with training companies. The interesting partnership is coming up with Cross Culture to Go, because we focus on cognitive diversity, psychological safety, but we didn't have the country-specific knowledge, and now we do. So we partner with them. We are really good at what we do. They are the best in their own category. So that's how we can create synergy. That's how I see the future. I believe in creating synergy rather than competing.
Way to go. Cool. Maarten, thanks very much for sharing your insight. It's brilliant stuff. And, I wish you well.
The book of Csaba's, and when I finish it, I will let you know, and I will promote it to my people.
Yeah, great. Thanks for being on Global TV again. And please come back again in the new year.
Thanks to you.
So take a moment in the chat thing on the bottom there. You can exchange messages before we close the show. Once we close the show, those messages will disappear. If you want to give email or website or whatever, feel free to do that, but do it quickly. So our next program is in about 90 minutes from now, and we're talking with a Canadian who's based in Toronto. Jeff Shacknow is an attorney, and he's created a technology visa service program, a new app, brand new. And so it's going to be like a premier PR thing coming up. And then next week, we have a series of programs, just so you know. I'll promote it, of course. We're doing interviews with relocation destination people in different places, including Mexico and Hong Kong and in India, also Dubai, and also in Greece, also in Colorado Springs in Colorado as a destination. So the U.S. economy is certainly going to rebound with all the spending, government stimulus programs, infrastructure spend, and a lot of communities away from bigger cities where there's congestion and high tax are going to benefit from new development and an influx of people who can work from somewhere else rather than in the clustered cities. So Colorado Springs is our first focus, and we'll be doing other cities around the U.S. as part of that program. Interestingly, we have a New Yorker who escaped from the pandemic and went to Aruba, of all places, in the southern Caribbean, just north of Venezuela. It's Dutch owned and very lovely place. And so that's where she's working and living now, in Aruba. And we're going to be talking about her own relocation and reinvention. So we got a bunch of interesting shows. I'll keep everybody informed. Thank you again for being on Global TV Talk Show. And this show will be ready for on demand in a few hours, and I'll let you all know. I'll get you the links. Take care and thank you. Ciao.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for being on the show. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.